Are you sick of the experience where you read something and it feels like it has slipped straight out of your mind? Does it annoy you when you have studied a concept and struggled to completely understand it, and a week later you have to start from the beginning again? Have you sat down for an exam and worried you won't know the answers, even though you studied really hard? Studying is not just reading. Reading is not studying. And reading without pictures or stories or sounds or colour makes it extremely difficult to learn quickly or deeply. So, at Knowledge Equity, why do we use short videos with lots of pictures and stories? Firstly, we think it is more interesting and engaging, so you are more likely to watch to the end without quitting. And persevering to the end of the subject is absolutely critical. But there is a deeper reason linked to science. We can process images 60,000 times faster than text. So, if you want to teach something well, writing it clearly is important, but you have to connect it with all parts of a student's brain so that they can remember it and apply, not just in an exam, but 2, 5, and 10 years later when it will be really useful in the workplace. Let me tell you about my finger and the concept of pictures in relation to recall. When I see a green car, I can immediately recall being around 5 years old and slamming my thumb in the door. To add insult to injury, I couldn't reach the door handle to open it up. I had to scream and wait for someone to come. No one did at first, so I began experimenting, twisting my body in different ways to try and reach the door handle. I found a way to do it, but didn't have the strength to open the door. Then Mum turned up. This memory also covers the months after, when I had to learn how to release pressure of a squashed nail when it dropped off, the brand of the cream Mum used to keep it from getting infected, and when it later got hit playing cricket at school. The interesting thing is that the trigger for my memory that brings all of this flooding back is not an image of a car door or of a squashed finger, but of the actual car itself. The reason that imagery is so powerful is related to how our brains work. We have two key areas of memory we use: long-term memory and working memory. We store pieces of information in our long-term memory at the back of our brain. These pieces of information are not grouped together in a way that we can use them to process solving a problem. In order to get those bite-sized bits of information in there, we need repetition and focus. Think about how you memorise a phone number without writing it down. You will need to say it to yourself a number of times. You might close your eyes and ears to block out distracting stimuli from the environment around you. Our working memory is our prefrontal cortex, and here we can only hold around 4 chunks of information at one time, although these can have smaller bits of information grouped in them. Here we also require something called spaced repetition to enable the working memory to embed a concept or framework that we need to use in different situations. Studies show that when you practice the application of something numerous times over a spaced period, it becomes much easier to recall it exactly when you need it. So, what do we want you to do in studying with Knowledge Equity to get the best out of our materials? Firstly, watch the videos. Then immediately attempt the exercises or mini quizzes in that unit. Secondly, go and read the study guide. You should find that you can process the information much faster in that module of the study guide than you would have without watching the videos first. Within 1 week, watch the videos again. The additional exposure will help send those key bits of information into your long-term memory and enable your working memory to formulate the framework and apply it. You should now attempt all of our end of module questions and all the in-text study guide questions. A few weeks later, you should watch the videos again just to refresh your understanding and skim over the study materials. This will reinforce your learning further. So by the time you get to our practice exams, you should have read the materials carefully and also performed several rounds of visual revision. To recap, we tell lots of stories and use lots of imagery in our teaching. We are following well-researched pedagogical principles that enable you to embed concepts and frameworks and recall and apply them at just the right time. You have to move beyond rote learning of theory, or you will risk failing an exam that tests you on application, and more importantly, you will not be able to utilise your learning to further your career.